A waitress watched a little girl collapse in her diner and dialed the only number in her phone. "Papa?" The voice that answered was cold, commanding, terrifying. What she didn't know, she just called the most feared Mafia boss in city. And now his daughter won't let her go. The coffee pot slipped from Emily's hand, shattering across the diner floor. Not because she was clumsy. Emily Carter had worked at Mel's Diner for 6 years, without breaking a single dish. Her hands were steady, even on her worst days. Even on days like today, the anniversary of the day she buried her daughter. No. The coffee pot fell because the little girl in booth 7 had just turned the color of ash and slumped forward into her tomato soup. Oh my God. Emily's feet were moving before her brain caught up. She vaulted over the counter, her worn sneakers crunching through broken ceramic. Somebody call 911. The only other customers, an elderly couple sharing a slice of pie, froze with their forks in midair. The girl couldn't have been more than 8 years old, dark hair, pale skin, dressed in a private school uniform that probably cost more than Emily's monthly rent. She'd come in alone 20 minutes ago, which had struck Emily as odd. Kids that young didn't usually wander around this part of Chicago by themselves, especially not at 9 on a rainy Tuesday night. Emily had asked her if she was waiting for someone. The girl had just nodded and ordered soup in a voice barely above a whisper. Now that same girl was unconscious, her small body sliding sideways across the vinyl booth. Emily caught her before she hit the floor. The girl's skin was clammy and cold. Too cold. "Hey, sweetie, can you hear me?" Emily gently laid her down, checking for a pulse. It was there, weak and irregular, but there. The girl's breathing was shallow, her lips tinged with blue. Emily's nursing training kicked in like muscle memory. She dropped out of nursing school 8 years ago when Emma got sick, but some things you never forget. She tilted the girl's head back, making sure her airway was clear. Checked her pupils, dilated and unfocused. This wasn't choking. This wasn't an allergic reaction. This was cardiac. "Did anyone call 911? Emily shouted. The old man by the window fumbled with his phone, his hands shaking. Emily's mind raced. She needed information. Medical history, emergency contacts, anything. The girl's designer backpack sat in the booth. Emily grabbed it, dumping the contents onto the table. Textbooks, colored pencils, a half-eaten granola bar, and a phone sleek black. Expensive. The kind of phone Emily would need to save up for 6 months to afford. She pressed the home button. No password. The screen lit up with a photo of the girl hugging a dark-haired man in sunglasses. Just one contact in the phone. Papa Emily's thumb hovered over the name. Everything in her screamed that this was a bad idea. This girl was clearly for money. Serious money. The kind of family that had lawyers and asked questions and blamed people like Emily when things went wrong. But the girl's pulse was getting weaker. Emily pressed call. It rang once, twice. Then a voice answered, low, controlled, with an edge sharp enough to cut glass. "Lily, where are you?" Not, "Hello, not who is this?" Just immediate focused intensity. Emily's throat went dry. This isn't Lily. I think Lily is your daughter. I'm calling because who is this?" The voice dropped several degrees colder. "Where is my daughter? My name is Emily Carter. I'm a waitress at Mel's Diner on West Oakley. And your daughter, she just collapsed. She's breathing, but barely. Her pulse is weak. And I think it's her heart. Is she conscious?" "No." A pause. Emily could hear muffled voices in the background, then the sound of a car door slamming. "Did you call an ambulance?" the man demanded. "Someone's calling right now. Keep her airways clear. Don't move her unless you have to. I'm 10 minutes away." The line went dead. Emily stared at the phone. Something about that voice made her stomach twist. It wasn't just authority. It was the kind of voice that expected to be obeyed without question, the kind that didn't ask twice. She pushed the thought away and knelt beside the girl again. Lily. At least now she had a name. Hang on, Lily, Emily whispered, holding a small cold hand. Your dad's coming. Just hang on. The girl's eyelids fluttered but didn't open. Emily had seen this before. This exact thing. The pale skin, the labored breathing, the way the little chest rose and fell in uneven stutters. Emma had looked exactly like this the night she died. The memory hit Emily like a freight train. Her own daughter in a hospital bed. Machines beeping. Doctors saying words like cardiomyopathy and genetic condition. And if we caught it earlier, saying I'm sorry over and over until the words lost all meaning. Emily had been holding Emma's hand when her heart finally stopped. She'd been powerless then. She wasn't powerless now. Come on, sweetie, Emily murmured, monitoring Lily's pulse with 2 fingers on her wrist. Stay with me, just a few more minutes. In the distance, sirens began to wail. But before the ambulance could arrive, a different sound cut through the rain. The screech of tires on wet asphalt. Multiple vehicles. Emily looked up through the diner's rain-streaked windows. 3 black SUVs had pulled up outside, blocking the entire street. Car doors opened in unison. Men in dark suits stepped out into the rain, and Emily's blood ran cold when she saw what they were carrying. Guns. The elderly couple gasped and ducked under their table. The diner door burst open and 4 men strode in. They moved like soldiers, their eyes scanning the room with predatory precision. One of them spoke into a radio. Location secured. Then he walked in. Emily knew immediately this was Papa. He was tall, maybe mid-40s, with dark hair swept back and a face that could have been carved from marble. His suit probably cost more than her car. But it was his eyes that made Emily's breath catch. Dark, intense, and currently locked onto the little girl lying on the floor. In 3 strides, he was kneeling beside Lily, his hand on her face. Lily Bambina, can you hear me? His voice, so cold on the phone, now cracked with something raw and desperate. One of his men moved toward Emily. Step back, ma'am. But Emily didn't move. She kept her fingers on Lily's pulse, her other hand holding the girl's. Her heart rate is dropping. The ambulance is almost here, but we need to, I said. Step back. The man reached for her arm. Touch her, and you'll regret it, Marco. The voice was quiet, but it froze everyone in place. Papa hadn't looked up from his daughter, but his words carried absolute authority. The man named Marco stepped back immediately. Emily met Papa's eyes, and for a moment she forgot to breathe. This close, she could see the fear beneath the control. The same fear she'd felt the night Emma collapsed. You're the one who called, he said. Not a question. Yes, you know CPR. I have nursing training. He gave a short nod. Then don't leave her side. Red and blue lights flashed outside as the ambulance finally arrived. But Emily couldn't shake the feeling that calling this man, whoever he was, might have been the biggest mistake of her life. Or maybe something whispered in the back of her mind. It was the beginning of something neither of them could have seen coming. The paramedics pushed through the door with a stretcher and equipment boxes. A young woman with her hair and a tight bun immediately dropped to her knees beside Lily. What happened? She asked, snapping on latex gloves. Cardiac episode, Emily said quickly. Weak, irregular pulse, shallow breathing, lips cyanotic. She's been unconscious for about 8 minutes. The paramedic's eyebrows rose slightly. Civilians didn't usually use words like cyanotic, but she didn't waste time asking questions. Her partner, a stocky man with a graying beard, was already setting up an oxygen mask. Papa. Emily still didn't know his real name, moved back exactly 1 inch to give them room, but his hand never left Lily's shoulder. His jaw was clenched so tight Emily could see the muscle jumping beneath his skin. "We need to transport immediately," the female paramedic said, checking Lily's vitals. "Sir, are you the father?" "Yes." "Does she have any medical conditions we should know about?" He hesitated for a fraction of a second. "No, nothing diagnosed." Emily's head snapped toward him. That hesitation, she'd heard it before from parents who suspected something was wrong but hadn't wanted to face it. From parents who'd been ignoring symptoms because acknowledging them made it real. The paramedics lifted Lily onto the stretcher with practiced efficiency. The oxygen mask covered half her small face. "We're taking her to Chicago Memorial," the bearded paramedic announced. "You can follow in your vehicle. I'm riding with her." Papa's tone made it clear this wasn't up for discussion. "Sir, there's limited space. I'm riding with her." The two paramedics exchanged glances. The female one nodded. "Fine, but only you." Emily grabbed her coat from behind the counter. "I'm coming too." Marco, the suited guard, stepped into her path. "Ma'am, that's not necessary. We can handle." "She knows me." Emily didn't raise her voice, but something in her tone made Marco pause. "When she wakes up in that ambulance, scared and confused. She's going to see strangers and guns and her father, who looks like he's about to break something. She needs someone calm, someone who isn't falling apart." She had meant it as an insult, but Papa's eyes flashed dangerously. "You think I can't? I think you're terrified." Emily cut him off, meeting a stare without blinking. "I think you love that little girl more than anything in this world. And I think that's exactly why you're the last person who should be trying to keep her calm right now." The diner went absolutely silent. Marco's hand moved toward his jacket. Another guard muttered something in Italian that sounded like a curse. The elderly couple under the table held their breath. Emily's heart hammered against her ribs, but she didn't look away from Papa's face. She'd already lost everything that mattered 8 years ago. What could this man possibly do to her that would be worse than that? Papa stared at her for a long moment. Then, impossibly, the corner of his mouth twitched. "You have a smart mouth," he said quietly. "I have an honest mouth. There's a difference." Another beat of silence. Then Papa turned to his men. "She rides with us." Marco looked like he'd been slapped. "Boss, we don't know anything about her." "She could be. She saved my daughter's life." Papa's voice dropped to a lethal softness. "Question my judgment again, Marco, and we'll have a different conversation." Marco's face went pale. "Yes, sir." The female paramedic raised her hands. "Look, I don't care who's coming, but we need to move now. The girl's heart rate is dropping. Everything happened fast after that." Emily found herself squeezed into the back of the ambulance between medical equipment and Papa's broad-shouldered frame. The door slammed shut, and the siren wailed to life. Lily looked impossibly small on the stretcher, her dark hair spread across the white pillow. The paramedic, her name tag read J. Richardson, worked quickly, inserting in 4-line and attaching monitor leads to Lily's chest. Papa watched every movement with laser focus, his hands clenched into fists. Emily gently placed her hand over Lily's small fingers. "Hey, sweetie," she murmured even though the girl couldn't hear her. "You're okay. We're getting you help." The monitor beeped erratically. Richardson frowned at the screen. "Her rhythm's all over the place." "What does that mean?" Papa demanded. "It means we need to get her to a cardiologist fast." Emily's stomach dropped. She'd heard those exact words before in another ambulance another lifetime ago. The ambulance hit a pothole, and everyone lurched. Papa's hand shot out to steady the stretcher, his other arm automatically bracing Emily against the wall. For a split second she was pressed against him, could feel the tension radiating through his entire body. "Sorry," she muttered, pulling back. He didn't respond. His eyes were locked on Lily's face, and Emily saw something in his expression that made her chest ache. It was the look of a man watching his entire world slip away, powerless to stop it. She knew that look. She'd worn it herself. She's strong, Emily said quietly. Stronger than she looks. Papa's jaw worked. How would you know? Because weak kids don't walk into strange diners alone at night and order soup like they own the place. She's a fighter. He glanced at her sharply, something unreadable flickering across his face. Then he looked back at Lily, and Emily could have sworn she saw his hand trembling. The ambulance screeched to a halt at the emergency entrance of Chicago Memorial. The doors flew open, and a team of doctors and nurses swarmed the stretcher. Emily jumped out but immediately found herself blocked by two of Papa's guards who'd followed in the SUVs. "Ma'am, you should go home now," one of them said, not unkindly but firmly. Emily looked past them to where they were wheeling Lily through the automatic doors, Papa striding alongside the gurney like a dark shadow. Every logical bone in her body told her to walk away. Go back to her tiny apartment. Forget this night ever happened. Stay in her own lane. But then she remembered Lily's hand in hers, the way the little girl had gripped her fingers, and she remembered Emma and the promise she'd made at her daughter's grave, that if she ever had the chance to save another child, she wouldn't fail. "No," Emily said simply, and walked past the guards before they could stop her. Behind her, she heard one of them mutter into his radio, "Boss, the waitress is following you in." She didn't hear the response, but no one tried to stop her. The emergency room was controlled chaos. Emily stood pressed against the wall as doctors and nurses swarmed around Lily's bed. Machines beeped and hummed. Someone called out blood pressure numbers. A tall doctor with silver hair barked orders about EKG readings and cardiac enzymes. Papa stood at the foot of the bed, motionless as a statue. His men had formed a perimeter around the room, which the hospital staff pretended not to notice. Emily suspected people didn't argue with men carrying guns, even in hospital. "We need family medical history," the silver-haired doctor said, not looking up from his tablet. "Any history of heart disease, arrhythmia, sudden cardiac events." Papa's silence stretched too long. The doctor finally looked up impatient. "Sir, I need answers if you want me to help your daughter. Her mother died of a heart condition." The words came out flat, emotionless. 6 years ago, the doctor's expression shifted. "What kind of condition?" "I don't know the name." She collapsed. "They said her heart just stopped working properly." Emily's breath caught. She stepped forward before she could stop herself. "Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy." Every head in the room turned toward her. The silver-haired doctor frowned. "Who are you?" "The woman who found her," Papa said quietly. "She has medical training," had Emily corrected. "I dropped out of nursing school, but my daughter died of HCM when she was 7. "The symptoms?" She gestured toward Lily. "The sudden collapse, the irregular heartbeat, the way she turned pale. It's exactly the same." The doctor studied her for a moment, then nodded to a nurse. "Run a full cardiac panel. I want an echocardiogram and genetic markers for HCM. Move her to imaging." As they wheeled Lily toward the door, a nurse touched Emily's arm. "Ma'am, you'll need to wait outside." "No," Emily didn't move. "Hospital policy. She stays." Papa's voice cut through the room like a blade. The nurse looked at the doctor. The doctor looked at Papa and his armed entourage. He sighed. "Fine. But stand in the corner and don't touch anything." Emily followed them down the hallway to the imaging room. She watched through the glass as they positioned Lily's small body under the echo machine, the wand moving across her chest, capturing images of her heart in real time. Papa stood beside her so close she could hear his breathing, carefully controlled, but too fast. "What's her name?" Emily asked quietly. He didn't take his eyes off his daughter. "Why? Because I can't keep calling you Papa in my head." A pause. "Vincent. Vincent Moretti." The name hit Emily like ice water. Even she, who didn't follow the news, who worked double shifts and went straight home, had heard that name. Vincent Moretti, the man the newspapers called the Wolf of Chicago, the one the mayor publicly condemned while privately, rumor said, paying protection money. She'd called a crime boss. She'd yelled at a crime boss. She told a crime boss he was falling apart. Her hands started to shake. "You're scared now?" Vincent observed, not mocking, just stating fact. "Wouldn't you be? Most people are smart enough to be scared from the beginning." He finally looked at her. "You told Marco he'd regret touching you. You told me I was falling apart. Either you're very brave or very stupid. I was focused on saving your daughter. I didn't have time to be afraid." And now Emily met his eyes. "Now I'm still more worried about Lily than about you." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or respect. Before he could respond, the doctor emerged from the imaging room. "Mr. Moretti, we need to talk." They moved to a small consultation room. Vincent sat down heavily. Emily started to leave, but he gestured for her to stay. The doctor pulled up images on his computer. "Your daughter has hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. The walls of her left ventricle are significantly thickened." "Which I know what it is," Vincent said quietly. "My wife had it. They said it was genetic." "It is. There's a 50% chance it passes from parent to child." The doctor's voice softened. "I'm sorry. If it's caught early, we can manage it with medication and lifestyle changes. But Lily's case is already advanced. She'll need a beta blocker, possibly an ICD, an implantable cardiovertibrillator to regulate her heart rhythm." Vincent's hands gripped the armrests so hard his knuckles went white. "Will she live?" "With proper treatment and monitoring, yes. But Mr. Moretti," the doctor hesitated, "has Lily been experiencing symptoms? Fatigue, dizziness, chest pain?" "She never said anything. Kids often don't. They think feeling tired is normal. But we need to know, has her behavior changed recently? Has she been withdrawn, or she stopped talking?" The words came out barely above a whisper. 3 months ago she just stopped. A few words here and there, but mostly nothing. The doctor nodded grimly. "That's not uncommon with chronic illness in children. Depression, anxiety, they often manifest as selective mutism." Emily's heart clenched. This little girl had been suffering in silence, her heart literally failing, and no one had known. "Can I see her?" Vincent asked. "She's being moved to a room now. We'll keep her for observation." "Start her on medication." Vincent was already moving toward the door. Lily's new room was private, quiet. She looked impossibly fragile against the white sheets, wires, and tubes running from her small body to various machines. Emily hung back, but Vincent turned. "Come." They approached the bed together. Vincent sat in the chair closest to Lily, reaching for her hand. Emily stood at the foot of the bed, giving them space. Lily's eyelids fluttered, opened. Her dark eyes were unfocused at first, confused. Then they landed on her father's face. Emily watched the little girl's expression carefully, waiting for relief, for joy. Instead, Lily's eyes widened with something that looked almost like fear. She pulled her hand away from Vincent's. Then her gaze found Emily, and everything changed. Lily's face crumpled, tears spilling down her cheeks. Her hand reached out, not to her father, but across the bed, grasping desperately towards Emily. Emily moved without thinking, taking the small hand in hers. Lily's lips moved, a whisper so quiet Emily almost missed it. "Don't go," the first words the doctor had said in months. Emily looked at Vincent and saw something break behind his eyes. He stood abruptly, turning away, his shoulders rigid. "Mr. Moretti, I'll be outside." His voice was rough. He walked out of the room without looking back. Lily's grip on Emily's hand tightened, and Emily understood with terrible clarity that she'd just become tangled in something far more complicated than a medical emergency. She'd stepped into the broken pieces of a family she didn't understand, and a little girl who'd just chosen a stranger over her own father. Emily stayed with Lily for 2 hours, holding her hand while the little girl drifted in and out of sleep. Every time Lily's eyes opened, they sought Emily first, checking to make sure she was still there. A nurse came in to check vitals and adjust medication. She smiled warmly at Emily. "You're a good mother." "I'm not her mother," Emily said quietly. The nurse's smile faltered. "Oh, I just assumed. Her father's outside." The nurse glanced toward the door where one of Vincent's guards stood like a statue. Her smile disappeared entirely. "Right. Well, the girl seems calm with you here. That's what matters." After the nurse left, Emily gently extracted her hand from Lily's grip. The little girl was sleeping soundly now, her breathing steady, color returning to her cheeks. The monitor showed a regular rhythm. The medication was working. Emily needed coffee and a bathroom, and maybe to call her boss at the diner to explain why she disappeared in the middle of her shift. She slipped out of the room. Vincent was in the waiting area sitting alone despite the 3 guards positioned around the room's perimeter. He wasn't on his phone or reading magazines, just staring at nothing, his hands clasped between his knees. He looked up when Emily approached. "She's sleeping," Emily said. "The nurse said her vitals are stable." Vincent nodded but didn't speak. An awkward silence stretched between them. Emily shifted her weight. "I should probably head home. My shift at the diner." "Sit." It wasn't quite in order, but close. Emily hesitated, then lowered herself into the chair beside him. Up close, she could see the exhaustion in his face, the shadow of stubble on his jaw. He looked older than he had a few hours ago. "She hasn't spoken to me in 3 months, Vincent said quietly. "Not more than a few words. I thought she was angry with me." I thought he stopped jaw-clenching. "I didn't know she was dying." "She's not dying," Emily said firmly. "She has a condition. It's manageable. My wife managed it too. Until she didn't." Emily didn't have an answer for that. Vincent reached into his jacket and pulled out a thick envelope. He set it on the small table between them. "For what you did tonight." Emily stared at the envelope. Even without opening it, she could tell it was stuffed with cash. "A lot of cash. I don't want your money, Mr. Moretti. It's not about want. You saved my daughter. That deserves compensation. I didn't save her for money." "Then why did you save her?" He turned to look at her directly. "You don't know her. You don't know me. You could have just called 911 and walked away." Emily met his gaze because she's a little girl and she needed help. "That's reason enough." Vincent studied her face like he was trying to solve a complicated puzzle. Then he pushed the envelope closer to her. "Take it anyway. Consider it a thank you." Emily pushed it back. "You don't fix people with cash, Mr. Moretti. Your daughter doesn't need your money. She needs you to figure out why she's so scared of you that she won't even talk to you." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. One of the guards, a younger man with sharp features, took a step forward. "Hey, you can't talk to him like—" Vincent held up one hand. The guard froze mid-sentence. "Everyone out," Vincent said quietly. Now his men exchanged glances. Marco opened his mouth to protest. "Out." They filed out of the waiting room, though Emily could see them taking positions just outside the door, probably still listening. Vincent leaned back in his chair, and for the first time that night, Emily saw something that might have been amusement in his eyes. "You're either the bravest woman I've ever met," he said, "or you have a death wish." "I'm a waitress from the South Side who buried her only child 8 years ago," Emily said. "What exactly do you think you can threaten me with that's worse than what I've already lived through?" The amusement vanished from his face. "Your daughter, the one with HCM, Emma. She was 7 in." Emily's voice stayed steady even as her chest tightened. "We couldn't afford the treatment, the surgeries. By the time we got her into a program for low-income families, it was too late." Vincent was quiet for a long moment. I'm sorry. Are you? Because I look at Lily and I see my daughter. I see a little girl who has a father with enough money to save her life 1,000 times over. And she still ended up in my diner alone, eating soup, having a cardiac episode because nobody noticed she was sick. Emily stood, her hands shaking with anger she didn't know she'd been holding. So no, Mr. Moretti. I don't want your money. I don't want your gratitude. I want you to do better by that little girl before you lose her the way I lost mine. She turned to leave. Emily? She stopped but didn't turn around. Why did you come to the hospital? Vincent asked. You made the call. You did your part. You could have stayed at the diner. Emily looked back at him over her shoulder. Because she held my hand, and because I made a promise to my daughter that if I ever had a chance to save another child, I wouldn't walk away. She left before he could respond. Outside in the hallway, she nearly collided with Marco, who was leaning against the wall with another guard, a muscular man with a scar across his eyebrow. That was stupid, Marco said, not threatening, almost concerned. Nobody talks to the dawn like that. Maybe someone should, Emily muttered, heading toward the elevator. She heard Marco's voice behind her. Quieter now, speaking to the scarred guard. She's dangerous, Nico. How? She's a waitress. Because she makes him soft. You saw how he looked at her. How he listened to her? A pause. She's a liability. The elevator dinged open. Emily stepped inside, her heart pounding. As the doors closed, she caught one last glimpse of the waiting room. Vincent was still sitting in the same position, staring at the envelope on the table. He hadn't moved to pick it up. Emily leaned against the elevator wall, suddenly exhausted. What was she doing? She'd just lectured a Mafia boss about parenting. She'd rejected his money. She'd made enemies of his guards. The smart thing would be to go home, never look back, and pray Vincent Moretti forgot she existed. But Lily's whispered words echoed in her mind. Don't go. And Emily knew with sinking certainty that she wasn't done with this family yet. Whether that would save her or destroy her remained to be seen. Emily's apartment was dark when she finally got home at 3:01 in the morning. She didn't bother turning on the lights, just dropped her keys on the counter and collapsed onto her second-hand couch. Every muscle ached. Her uniform smelled like coffee and fierce sweat. Her hands were still shaking. She should sleep. She had to open the diner in 5 hours. Instead, she found herself walking to the small bookshelf in the corner of her living room. Her fingers found the frame immediately, even in the darkness. She touched it so many times over the years that she knew exactly where it was. Emily carried it to the window where streetlight filtered through the blinds. Emma smiled up at her from the photograph, 7 years old, missing her 2 front teeth, wearing her favorite purple dress. They'd taken this picture at Navy Pier, one of the good days before the hospital stays became constant, before the word terminal entered their vocabulary. I met a little girl tonight, Emily whispered to the photo. She has your condition, your smile, your dark hair. Her voice cracked. She's so scared. Em and her father, he has all the money in the world to save her, but he doesn't know how to reach her. The photo didn't answer. It never did. Emily set it back on the shelf and moved to her tiny kitchen. She made tea she didn't drink and stared at the wall until the sun started to rise. At some point, she made a decision. She called the diner at 6:30. Her boss, Mel, answered on the 3rd ring. Emily. Jesus. Where did you disappear to last night? Old man Henderson said there was an ambulance and guys with guns. I know. I'm sorry. A customer's daughter collapsed. I had to make sure she was okay. Is she? Emily closed her eyes. She will be Mel. I need a favor. I need the next 2 weeks off. Silence. Then 2 weeks. Emily? You've never taken more than 2 days off in 6 years. I know, I'm sorry, but this little girl, she needs help. And I'm the only one she'll talk to. Another long pause. You going to tell me what's really going on? Probably better if I don't. Melchind Foe. 2 weeks. But you better come back, Carter. You're the only one who knows how to work the ancient coffee machine. Thank you. Emily hung up and stared at her phone. Then, before she could second-guess herself, she pulled up the contact information from the hospital discharge papers they'd given her the night before. She texted the number listed as Patient Emergency Contact Father. This is Emily Carter. I'd like to volunteer to help with Lily's care at the hospital. I have nursing experience and she seems comfortable with me. Let me know if this is acceptable. She hit send before her common sense could stop her. The reply came 30 seconds later. Why? Emily typed. Because she needs someone who understands what she's going through, and because I need to know I didn't walk away. 3 minutes passed. Then Chicago Memorial Room 347. Be there at 900 a.m. Vincent was standing outside Lily's room when Emily arrived, talking in low tones with a man in an expensive suit. Not security this time. A lawyer maybe, or a business associate. They both fell silent when they saw her. We'll finish this later, Vincent said to the man, who nodded and left without a word. Vincent studied Emily. She changed into jeans and a clean sweater, pulled her dark hair back in a ponytail. Without her diner uniform, she looked younger and tired. You didn't have to come, Vincent said. Yes, I did. My men can hire proper nurses, professionals with current credentials. Your men can hire 100 nurses and Lily still won't talk to them. Emily met his gaze. She talked to me. Vincent's jaw tightened. 2 words, which is 2 more than she said to anyone else in months. He couldn't argue with that. There are rules, Vincent said finally. You don't ask questions about my work. You don't talk to reporters. You don't repeat anything you see or hear. I'm here for Lily, not for you. I know something shifted in his expression. That's why I'm saying yes. He opened the door to Lily's room. The little girl was awake, picking at her breakfast tray without enthusiasm. Her eyes lit up when she saw Emily. Actually lit up in a way they hadn't when Vincent entered the room. Hey, sweetie, Emily said softly, approaching the bed. Remember me? Lily nodded. Then, in a whisper so quiet Emily almost missed it. You stayed. Emily's throat tightened. I said I would, didn't I? For the first time Lily smiled. Just a small curve of her lips, but it transformed her entire face. And Emily's heart shattered. It was Emma's smile, the same shy, tentative expression Emma used to make when Emily brought her favorite books to the hospital. The same hope mixed with fear that maybe, just maybe, things would be okay. Emily had to look away for a moment, blinking hard. When she looked back, Lily was watching her with those 2 wise eyes. My daughter had a smile like yours, Emily said quietly. Her name was Emma. Where is she? Lily's voice was barely audible. She's in heaven now. But you know what? Every time you smile, it's like getting to see her again. Lily processed this. Then she held out her hand. Emily took it, settling into the chair beside the bed. Behind them. She heard Vincent move quietly to the window, giving them space, but not leaving. The doctor says you'll need to take medicine every day, Emily said gently. And we'll need to be careful about your heart. But you're going to be okay, Lily. I promise. Lily squeezed her hand. Don't go, she whispered again. I'm not going anywhere. Over the next few hours, Emily fell into a rhythm she remembered from nursing school. She helped Lily eat, explained what each machine did in simple terms, distracted her during medication time with stories about the diner's quirky customers. Lily didn't say much, but she listened to every word, and slowly, gradually, she started to relax. At one point, Lily's eyes drifted to where Vincent stood by the window, still and silent. That's your papa, Emily said gently. He's been very worried about you. Lily's expression shuddered immediately. She looked away. Emily caught Vincent's eye. The pain in his face was unmistakable. For the first time in his life, Vincent Moretti had everything he needed to save someone he loved. Money, power, resources, and none of it mattered because what Lily needed wasn't something he could buy or intimidate into existence. She needed something he'd forgotten how to give. Emily saw it clearly now. This wasn't just about a sick child and a scared father. This was about a man who'd built walls so high to protect his daughter that he'd accidentally locked himself out. And somehow Emily had been handed the key. 5 days passed. Emily arrived at the hospital every morning at 8 and stayed until Lily fell asleep each night. She read to her from books Vincent's men brought. Fairy tales mostly, though Emily suspected they'd raided a bookstore and just grabbed everything in the children's section. She helped Lily with the breathing exercises the physical therapist recommended. She learned that Lily loved strawberries but hated grapes, that she was afraid of thunder, and that she could draw surprisingly well for an 8-year-old. The drawing started on day 3. A nurse had brought crayons and paper to keep Lily occupied. At first, the little girl just made abstract swirls of color. Then she started drawing people. Emily watched over Lily's shoulder as the picture took shape. A small figure in a hospital bed, a woman with dark hair holding her hand, and a tall man standing far away near the window. Lily drew the tall man in all black, like a shadow. "That's beautiful," Emily said softly. "Is that your papa?" Lily nodded without looking up. "Why is he so far away in the picture?" Lily's crayon paused. Then she drew a thick black line between the man and the bed. A wall. Emily's chest tightened. She glanced at Vincent, who sat in his usual spot by the window, pretending to read something on his phone. But his jaw was clenched, and she knew he'd seen the drawing. The next day, Lily drew another picture. This time, all 3 of them were together. No wall, no distance, just a woman and a man on either side of a little girl, all holding hands. Lily colored the woman's hair dark brown. The man's suit was still black, but this time she drew a tiny smile on his face. She never showed the picture to Vincent, just folded it carefully and tucked it under her pillow. On day 6, everything changed. Lily had been doing well, talking more, though still mostly to Emily. She'd said good morning to one of the nurses, and had even laughed at a joke from Dr. Richardson. Vincent had been encouraged. Emily could see it in the way he sat a little closer to the bed, how he tried to engage Lily in conversation. "The doctor says, you might be able to come home soon," Vincent said that afternoon, his tone lighter than usual. "Your room is ready. I had them paint it. What color do you want?" Lily stared at her coloring book, not answering. "Lily," Vincent's voice sharpened just slightly, just the edge of impatience bleeding through. "I asked you a question." The little girl flinched. It was subtle, just a slight hunch of her shoulders, a quick intake of breath. But Emily saw it, and from the way Vincent went rigid, he saw it too. Lily's hand trembled as she gripped her crayon tighter. "Purple," she whispered, not looking at him. "I want purple." "Good." Vincent's voice was carefully controlled now. "Purple it is." But the damage was done. Lily had pulled into herself again, the small bit of openness from the past few days evaporating like morning mist. Vincent stood abruptly. "I need to make a call." He left the room and Emily could hear him in the hallway speaking in rapid Italian. The words were harsh, angry, but not directed at Lily. At himself, maybe, or at the situation. Emily waited until Lily seemed calmer, then followed Vincent into the hall. He was leaning against the wall, one hand pressed against his forehead. His guard stood at a respectful distance. "Mr. Moretti." He looked up, and Emily saw exhaustion carved deep into his features. "She's afraid of me," he said flatly. "My own daughter is afraid of me." "She's not afraid of you," Emily said carefully. "She's afraid of your tone, your intensity." "It's the same thing." "No, it's not." Emily moved closer, lowering her voice. "You talk to her the way you probably talk to your men. like you're giving orders, like you expect immediate obedience. I'm her father. She should. She's 8 years old and her heart almost stopped. Emily cut him off. She doesn't need a boss right now, Mr. Moretti. She needs a dad. Vincent stared at her. Something flickered behind his eyes. Anger, maybe, or pain. You think I don't know that? I think you've spent so long being the man everyone fears that you've forgotten how to be the man your daughter needs. The words hung in the air between them. One of the guards, Marco, shifted uncomfortably. Boss, you don't have to listen to. Shut up, Marco. Vincent didn't take his eyes off Emily. His voice was quiet, dangerous. You have no idea what you're talking about, don't I? Emily stepped closer, meeting his gaze. I've watched you for 6 days. You sit in that room like you're attending a business meeting. You check your phone every 10 minutes. You give her choices like they're negotiations. But you never just sit with her. You never ask her how she feels. You never tell her you're scared too. I can't show weakness. She's not your enemy. Emily's voice rose and she forced herself to take a breath. She's a little girl who almost died, who's terrified of dying like her mother did. And she needs to know that her father is human, that he's scared, that he loves her more than whatever empire you've built. Vincent's hands clenched into fists. For a moment, Emily thought she'd gone too far. The look in his eyes was the same one she'd seen that first night. Cold, lethal, the look of a man who'd done terrible things and would do them again. Then his shoulders sagged and the facade cracked. I don't know how, he said quietly. The admissions seemed to cost him everything. I don't know how to be what she needs. Everything I touch, I destroy. Everyone I love. He stopped, his voice breaking. My wife died because I was too late getting her to the hospital, too busy with the meeting, too focused on protecting territory to notice she was getting worse. And now Lily. Lily is alive, Emily said firmly. And she's going to stay alive. But not because you have money or power. Because you're going to learn to be her father instead of her protector. They're the same thing. No. Emily shook her head. Protection is about control. Being a father is about connection. And right now you're so busy trying to control everything that you can't connect with anyone. Vincent looked at her for a long moment, then so quietly she almost missed it. Teach me. Emily blinked. What? You know how to reach her? I don't. He met her eyes, and for the first time she saw no walls, no defenses, just a desperate father. Teach me how to talk to my daughter. Before Emily could answer, a small voice came from the doorway. Papa. They both turned. Lily stood there in her hospital gown, bare feet on the cold floor, holding the folded drawing in her small hand. Lily, you shouldn't be out of bed, Vincent started. But Lily walked past him and handed the drawing to Emily. Can you give this to him? She whispered. I'm scared too. Emily unfolded the paper, looking at the picture of the three of them together holding hands. She looked at Vincent, saw him staring at the drawing with an expression she couldn't quite read. Then Emily did something that surprised them both. She took Lily's hand and placed it in Vincent's. Tell him yourself, sweetie, Emily said gently. He's not as scary as you think. Lily's hand felt impossibly small in Vincent's palm. He stared down at it, his daughter's fingers so fragile against his callous skin. The drawing trembled in his other hand. Lily, he said, and his voice cracked on her name. She looked up at him with those dark eyes so much like her mother's, waiting, hoping, terrified. Emily stepped back, giving them space but not leaving the hallway. This picture, Vincent managed. Is this what you want for us to be together? Lily whispered like before Mama died. Something broke in Vincent's chest. He knelt down, bringing himself to Lily's eye level. Up close, he could see how much weight she'd lost, how the hospital gown hung off her small frame. How had he not noticed? I'm sorry, he said. The words felt foreign in his mouth. Vincent Moretti didn't apologize. Not to rivals, not to associates, not to anyone. But this was his daughter. "I'm sorry I didn't see you were sick. I'm sorry I scared you. I'm sorry. I don't know how to." Lily threw her arms around his neck. Vincent froze, stunned. Then, carefully, like he was holding something made of glass, he wrapped his arms around her and held on. She was crying. So was he. Emily turned away, giving them privacy, her own eyes burning with tears. For 3 minutes, father and daughter held each other in that hospital hallway, while guards pretended not to notice, and nurses walked quietly around them. When they finally pulled apart, Lily touched her father's face with one small hand. "You're not scary, Papa. You're just loud." Vincent huffed out something between a laugh and a sob. "I'll try to be quieter." "Okay." He stood, scooping Lily into his arms like she weighed nothing. "Let's get you back to bed before the nurses yell at me." "They won't yell at you. Everyone's scared of you." "Not everyone." Vincent glanced at Emily, who was wiping her eyes. "Some people are too stubborn to know better." Emily smiled despite herself. They were halfway back to Lily's room when Vincent's phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again and again. Lily felt him tense. "You have to go," she said quietly. "Not a question." "No, I'm staying right here." The phone rang. Vincent pulled it out, ready to turn it off, but the name on the screen made him stop. Dante Urgent. Dante was his consigliera. 20 years of loyalty. The man who handled problems Vincent couldn't afford to ignore. He never called, unless it was life or death. Vincent looked at Lily, then at Emily. "I need to take this. I'll be right back." He set Lily gently on her bed and stepped into the hallway, pressing the phone to his ear. "This better be important." "Boss, we have a problem." Dante's voice was tight. "The Barbie family knows about Lily." Every muscle in Vincent's body went rigid. "How?" "Someone talked. Maybe a nurse. Maybe someone saw the convoy." "Doesn't matter. Marcus Barbieri is making moves. My sources say he's planning something." "What kind of something?" "The kind where he uses your daughter to settle old scores." Dante paused. "He knows she's sick." "Vincent, he knows she's vulnerable, and he knows you'll do anything to protect her." Vincent's free hand clenched into a fist. Marcus Barbieri had been a thorn in his side for 3 years. A rival family trying to muscle into Vincent's territory. They'd had an uneasy truce, but truces were fragile things in their world. "What are you suggesting?" Vincent asked, though he already knew. "Send her away tonight. I have a place in Italy, a villa, secure, off the books. We can have her on a plane in 2 hours with a medical team. She'll be safe there until we handle Barbie." "For how long?" "However long it takes, weeks, maybe months." Vincent looked through the window into Lily's room. She was showing Emily another drawing, actually smiling, actually talking. After months of silence, his daughter was finally coming back to him. "No," Vincent said. "Boss, I said no. I'm not sending her away. Then you're putting her life at risk." Dante's voice hardened. "You know how Barbary operates. He won't come at you directly. He'll go after what you love. And right now, that girl is the biggest target in Chicago. So we eliminate the threat. It's not that simple. Barbary has connections. The commission won't approve a hit without cause. If you move against him now, you start a war. Then we start a war." Vincent Dante rarely used his first name. Think about this. A war means chaos. Means attention from the feds, means Lily becomes collateral damage. Send her to Italy. Keep her safe. Then we can deal with Barbie properly. Vincent closed his eyes. Everything Dante was saying made tactical sense. Sending Lily away was the smart move, the logical move. It's what any good strategist would do. But he just held his daughter for the first time in months. He just heard her laugh. How could he send her away now? He ended the call and walked back into the room. Emily looked up from Lily's drawing and something in his expression made her stand. What's wrong? Nothing. Vincent forced his features into neutrality. Just business. But Lily was watching him with those two perceptive eyes. You're lying. You have your lying face, sweetheart. Are you sending me away? The question hit like a bullet. Vincent hesitated too long. Lily's face crumpled. No, no, I don't want to go. Papa, please. It's just for a little while, just until… No. Lily grabbed Emily's hand, tears streaming down her face. I won't go without Emily. She's my safe place. She's the only one who… She dissolved into sobs, clutching Emily like a lifeline. Emily wrapped her arms around the little girl, shooting Vincent, a look that could have melted steel. What did you do? There are people who want to hurt her. Vincent's voice was strained. People who will use her to get to me. The only way to keep her safe is to rip her away from the one person she's finally opened up to. Emily's voice shook with fury. She just started talking again. Vincent, she just started trusting you and your solution is to send her to another country. You don't understand the world I live in. I understand that you're about to make the same mistake again. Emily's eyes blazed, choosing your empire over your daughter, putting business before family, and this time she's awake to see you do it. The words landed like physical blows. Vincent looked at his daughter, sobbing, terrified, begging not to be sent away, and saw his wife's face the night she died. Saw himself arriving at the hospital too late, too consumed with protecting his interests to notice she'd been dying for months. History repeating itself. Marco appeared in the doorway. Boss Dante says, "We need to move now. The plane is ready." Lily's sobs intensified. "Papa, please, please don't make me go." Vincent stood frozen, torn between every instinct he had. Protect his daughter by sending her away, or keep her close and risk losing her forever. For the first time in his life, Vincent Moretti had no idea what to do, and the clock was ticking. Vincent made his decision. "Call off the plane," he said to Marco, not taking his eyes off Lily. "We're staying, boss." Dante said. "I don't care what Dante said. Tell him to double security here. Triple it. I want men on every floor, every entrance, every window. Nobody gets near this room without my approval." Marco hesitated, then nodded and stepped into the hallway, already on his phone. Vincent knelt beside Lily's bed. "I'm not sending you away, I promise." Lily threw her arms around his neck again, her small body shaking with relief. "Thank you, Papa. Thank you." Emily watched the reunion, her expression unreadable. She should have felt relief. Lily was staying. That was good. But something cold settled in her stomach as she watched Vincent's guards multiply outside the room. This wasn't over. Whatever threat he'd mentioned, it was real, and she'd just become part of it. Emily went home that night for the first time in a week. Her apartment felt foreign to quiet after the constant beeping of hospital monitors. She took a shower, changed into clean clothes, and was making coffee when someone pounded on her door. "Miss Carter, I know you're in there." Emily recognized the voice. "Mr. Kowalski, her landlord." She opened the door to find him standing in the hallway, arms crossed, his weathered face set in angry lines. "Mr. Kowalski, it's 11 at night. You got 30 days to get out." Emily's stomach dropped. "What? Don't play dumb. I know who you've been spending time with." "Vincent Moretti." He practically spat the name. "His guys came through my building last week asking questions about you. You think I don't know what that means? A child was sick. I was helping. I don't care if you were saving the Pope himself. I got a wife, Miss Carter. I got grandkids who visit. I can't have Mafia business in my building." He pulled out a folded paper from his jacket. 30 days. It's all legal. Already talked to my lawyer. He dropped the eviction notice in her hand and walked away. Emily stood in her doorway, staring at the paper, feeling her carefully constructed life crumbling around her. She'd lived in this apartment for 8 years. It was where she'd brought Emma home from the hospital for the last time, where she'd packed away her daughter's clothes after the funeral, where she'd learned to live with the grief, and now it was gone because she'd saved a little girl's life. Vincent found out the next morning. Emily didn't tell him. She wouldn't have, but apparently his men had been watching her building. They reported everything. "I can fix this," Vincent said as soon as she walked into Lily's hospital room. "I'll talk to your landlord, or I'll buy the building, or I'll set you up in a better place, somewhere safe, secure." "No!" Emily's voice was flat. "Emily, be reasonable." I said, "No." She set her bag down with more force than necessary. "I'm not your charity case, Mr. Moretti. I'm not another problem for you to throw money at. This isn't about money. You're in danger because of me. I'm homeless because of you." The words came out sharper than she intended. "I'm losing my home because I got tangled up in your world. So forgive me if I don't want to be even more dependent on you." Lily looked between them, her eyes wide. "Emily's leaving." "No, sweetheart." Emily's voice softened immediately. "I'm not leaving you. I just need to find a new place to live." "You can live with us," Lily said brightly. "Right, Papa? Our house is really big." The suggestion hung in the air like a grenade. "That's not appropriate," Emily said firmly. "Your papa and I barely know each other." "I have guest houses," Vincent said. "Separate from the main residence, fully furnished, secure. You wouldn't be living with me, just on the property. So, I'd be your employee. You'd be under my protection." "I don't want your protection." Emily's voice rose. "Don't you get it? This is exactly what I'm trying to avoid. Being another person who lives off Vincent Moretti's generosity, who owes him, who belongs to him." "I don't own people," Vincent said coldly. "Don't you?" Emily rounded on him. "Your men jump when you speak. Nurses trip over themselves to accommodate you. My landlord is terrified of you. Everyone in your orbit belongs to you in one way or another. That's not fair, isn't it?" Emily stepped closer, her hands trembling. "My daughter died because I couldn't afford treatment. Do you know what that's like? Watching your child slip away because you're poor. Because you don't matter to anyone with power." Vincent's jaw tightened. "Emily, I worked 3 jobs. I begged hospitals for help. I applied for every program, every grant, every charity." Her voice cracked. "And you know what I learned? People like you don't help people like me unless there's something in it for you. Rich men don't use their power to save dying children. They use it to build empires and protect their interests. That's not what I'm doing here, isn't it?" Emily's eyes blazed. "You're not keeping Lily at the hospital because it's best for her. You're keeping her here because sending her away makes you look weak. This whole situation, the guards, the guns, the threats, it's all because of choices you made. And now Lily and I are both paying the price." The room went silent. Lily had tears streaming down her face. "Don't fight," she whispered. "Please don't fight." Emily's anger deflated immediately. She moved to Lily's side, taking her hand. "I am sorry, sweetie. I didn't mean to upset you." Vincent stood rigid by the window, his back to them both. "You're wrong about one thing," he said quietly. "I'm not keeping Lily here for my reputation. I'm keeping her here because sending her away would break what's left of her heart." He turned, and Emily saw something raw in his expression. "You think I don't know what I am, what I represent. I've built everything I have on fear and violence. I know that. But Lily is the one good thing I've ever created, and I'm trying." His voice broke slightly. "I'm trying not to destroy her too." Emily looked at him, really looked, and saw the truth. He wasn't a monster. He was just a man who'd made terrible choices and was drowning in the consequences, just like she was. "I don't want to live in your house," she said finally. "But I need time to find somewhere else. Can your men?" "I don't know. Make sure my landlord doesn't throw my stuff on the street before I figure it out." Vincent nodded. "Already done. And I'm paying my own rent wherever I end up." "Fine. And I'm not your employee. I'm Lily's friend. There's a difference." "I understand." Emily took a shaky breath. "Good." Lily squeezed both their hands. "Are you done being mad?" Emily managed a weak smile. "Yes, sweetie. We're done." But as Vincent's phone buzzed again, Dante calling for the third time that hour, Emily knew the truth. They weren't done. This was only the beginning. It happened on Lily's 10th night in the hospital. The doctors had said she could be discharged in 2 days. Her medication was working. Her heart rhythm had stabilized, and she'd gained back 3 pounds. Emily had spent the afternoon helping her pack her drawings and books, talking about what color curtains she wanted for her purple bedroom. Everything felt almost normal. Emily should have known better. It was just past midnight when Vincent's phone rang. He'd been dozing in the chair by the window, something Emily had never seen him do before. He'd been sleeping at the hospital every night, refusing to leave Lily's side despite Dante's increasingly urgent calls to handle business. Vincent answered quietly, listened for 30 seconds. Then his entire body went rigid. When his voice was deadly calm, "How many?" Emily looked up from her book. Lily was asleep, her small chest rising and falling steadily. Vincent stood, moving toward the door. He spoke in rapid Italian to Marco, who'd been standing guard outside. More men appeared, 6 of them all armed. "What's going on?" Emily asked, keeping her voice low. "We're moving Lily." Vincent was already disconnecting her monitors, careful not to wake her. "Now what?" the doctors said. "The Barbie family knows she's being discharged in 2 days. They're planning to hit us during transport." Vincent's hands moved with practiced efficiency, gathering Lily's things. "We're moving her tonight instead. They won't be ready." Emily's heart hammered. "You're using your daughter as bait. I'm getting her out before they can hurt her by doing exactly what they'd expect." "Vincent, this is glass exploded inward." The window shattered in a shower of crystalline fragments as bullets tore through the room. Emily's instincts took over. She threw herself across Lily's bed, covering the little girl's body with her own. Lily woke, screaming. More gunfire. The machines beside the bed sparked and died as bullets ripped through them. Emily felt something hot graze her shoulder but didn't dare move. She pressed Lily's face against her chest, shielding her from the chaos. "Stay down!" Vincent roared. He had pulled a gun from somewhere. When had he armed himself and was returning fire through the shattered window? Outside in the hallway, more gunfire erupted. Shouts in Italian, someone screaming. Lily was sobbing against Emily's chest, her small body shaking uncontrollably. "Emily, Emily, Emily, I've got you, baby. I've got you." Emily's voice somehow stayed steady, even as terror flooded her veins. "Close your eyes. Don't look." The door burst open. 3 men in black masks stormed in, guns raised. Marco and 2 other guards met them head-on. The firefight was brutal, deafening in the small hospital room. Emily couldn't see what was happening. Didn't want to see. Just held Lily tighter and prayed. One of the masked men went down, then another. Then something changed in the air. A shift from defensive to predatory. Vincent moved like death itself. Emily caught glimpses between her closed eyes. Vincent disarming a gunman with brutal efficiency, breaking the man's arm with a sickening crack, putting a bullet in another man's knee. Then his chest, moving with a precision that came from years of violence. Each motion, economical and lethal. This wasn't self-defense. This was execution. The third masked man tried to run. Vincent shot him in the back. Then silence ringing. Awful silence broken only by Lily's muffled sobs and someone's labored breathing. Emily finally dared to look up. The room was destroyed. Bullet holes peppered the walls. Medical equipment sparked and smoked. 3 bodies lay on the floor in spreading pools of blood. And Vincent stood in the center of it all. Guns still raised, his expensive suit splattered with crimson. His hands were shaking, not from fear, from adrenaline, from rage barely contained. "Boss, we need to move." Marco was bleeding from his arm but standing. More could be coming. Vincent lowered his gun. His eyes found Lily still pressed against Emily's chest. "Lily, it's over," he said, his voice rough. "You're safe now." Emily slowly released her grip, letting Lily sit up. The little girl's eyes were wide, unfocused with shock. They swept the room, the broken glass, the bodies, the blood, and landed on her father. On his hands, still gripping the gun covered in red. "Papa," her voice was tiny, broken. Vincent took a step toward her, holstering his weapon. "It's okay, Bambina. They can't hurt you now. I took care of." Lily screamed. Not a scream of fear from the attack. A scream of pure terror directed at Vincent himself. She scrambled backward on the bed, pressing herself against Emily, her eyes locked on Vincent's blood-stained hands like they were vipers. "Get away!" Lily shrieked. "Get away from me!" Vincent froze. "Lily, I was protecting you. You killed them." "You killed them." She was hyperventilating, her face turning pale. The heart monitor, the one machine still working, began beeping frantically. "Sweetheart, they were trying to hurt you. I saw you. I saw what you did." Tears streamed down Lily's face. "You're a monster. Mama said you were a monster, and she was right." The words hit Vincent like bullets. He staggered back a step, his face draining of color. Emily wrapped her arms around Lily, feeling the little girl's racing heartbeat against her own chest. "Lily, you need to calm down. Your heart." But Lily was inconsolable, sobbing and shaking, her eyes still fixed on her father with absolute horror. Emily looked at Vincent, saw the devastation in his face, the way his hands hung uselessly at his sides, still stained with blood, and something inside her snapped. "Get out," she said. Vincent blinked. "What? Get out of this room!" Now Emily's voice shook with fury. "You just traumatized your daughter to save her life. Congratulations, Vincent. You saved her body and lost her heart. Emily, I had to. I said, get out." Marco moved to intervene, but Vincent held up a hand. His face was a mask of stone, but his eyes were broken. He looked at Lily one more time. His daughter pressed against Emily, still sobbing, still terrified of him. Then he turned and walked out of the room without a word. The door closed behind him with a soft click, and Emily was left holding a shattered little girl in a room that smelled of gunpowder and blood, wondering if some things, some people, were too broken to ever be fixed. Outside in the hallway she could hear Vincent's voice, cold and empty. "Clean this up and find every member of the Barbie family. I want them to know what happens when they touch what's mine." Emily closed her eyes and held Lily tighter. The war had just begun. Lily was moved to a different hospital across the city within an hour of the attack. This one had no windows in the patient rooms. Armed guards on every floor, metal detectors at every entrance. It looked less like a hospital and more like a fortress. Lily didn't speak for 3 days. Not to the nurses, not to the doctors, not even to Emily. She just lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her small hands clutching the blanket. When Emily tried to hold her hand, Lily would pull away, not roughly, but with a kind of defeated exhaustion that was somehow worse. On the 4th day, Dr. Richardson came in with test results and a grim expression. "Her heart rate is elevated again," he said quietly to Emily while Lily pretended to sleep. The stress from the attack triggered a relapse. "We're adjusting her medication, but he hesitated." "Where's her father?" "I don't know." Emily hadn't seen Vincent since that night. His men were everywhere, but Vincent himself had vanished. She needs stability. Come. Her heart can't handle this level of trauma. Dr. Richardson looked at the little girl in the bed. Physically, she's recovering. Emotionally, I'm worried we're losing her. Emily was worried about the same thing. Vincent sat alone in the hospital chapel. He'd been there for 2 hours staring at the simple wooden cross on the wall. He wasn't a religious man, hadn't stepped foot in a church since his wife's funeral, but he had nowhere else to go. His phone buzzed constantly. Dante calling, Marco calling, his lawyers, his accountants, his contacts in City Hall, everyone wanting to know what the next move was. Vincent had declared war on the Barbieri family the night of the attack. He'd mobilized every resource, called in every favor, prepared to burn their organization to the ground. But then he'd heard Lily screaming in his nightmares, "You're a monster. Mama said you were a monster," and she was right. His wife had said that the night before she died during one of their final arguments. She'd begged him to leave the life to take Lily and disappear somewhere safe. He'd refused. Said he had responsibilities, obligations, a kingdom to protect. She'd looked at him with such disappointment. "You're not building a kingdom, Vincent. You're building a prison. And one day, Lily will see you for what you really are." She'd been right. "If I can't be the father she needs," Vincent whispered to the empty chapel, "then I don't deserve her." His phone buzzed again. This time he answered. "Boss, we have a problem." Dante's voice was tight with urgency. "The Barbary family is mobilizing. They're calling in allies from New York, from Miami." "If we don't strike first, call them," Vincent said. "What?" "Call Marcus Barbieri. Tell him I want a meeting." Silence. "Then, boss, if this is about negotiating terms of surrender, you know they'll—" "I'm not surrendering. I'm declaring a truce." "A truce?" Dante's voice rose in disbelief. "They just tried to kill your daughter. They attacked a hospital and you want to?" "Yes, Vincent. That's suicide. The other families will see it as weakness. Every crew that's been waiting for you to show vulnerability will move against us. We'll lose everything." "I know." Another long silence. "You're serious. Completely. Why?" Vincent closed his eyes. "Because I've built a kingdom out of fear, Dante. And it's time it fell." 30 minutes later, Vincent's inner circle gathered in a private conference room at the hospital. 6 men who'd been with him for years, who had helped him build his empire from nothing. Dante stood at the head of the table, arms crossed. Marco leaned against the wall, his injured arm in a sling. The others sat in various states of confusion and concern. "Explain to me," Dante said carefully, "why we're calling off a war we're positioned to win." Vincent stood by the window, this one reinforced with bulletproof glass. "Because Lily saw me kill 3 men. Because she called me a monster. Because the doctors say the stress is destroying her heart." He turned to face them. "Because I'm choosing my daughter over everything else. Boss, we can protect her." Marco said we can move her somewhere safe, somewhere the Barbie family can't touch her, and then we finish this fight. "And what happens when I finish it?" Vincent's voice was quiet but firm. "I kill Marcus Barbieri and his brothers. Maybe his cousins too. Maybe anyone who ever worked for him. And then what? Lily grows up knowing her father is a mass murderer. She grows up in hiding, surrounded by guards, never able to live a normal life. She becomes exactly what I've been trying to prevent." "She's already in that life," Dante argued. "The moment she was born into this family, that was her fate. Then I'm changing her fate by destroying everything we've built." "Yes." Vincent met each man's eyes in turn. "I'm calling off all operations, declaring a truce with every family, including the Barbieris. I'm stepping down." The room erupted. "You can't just step down. The commission will never accept. You'll be killed within a month." "Enough," Vincent's voice cut through the chaos. I've made my decision. Anyone who doesn't like it can walk away right now. No hard feelings. I'll make sure you're set up with someone who still has ambitions in this world. No one moved. I'm not asking you to follow me into retirement, Vincent continued. I'm releasing you from your obligations. All of you. Your loyalty has been appreciated, but it's no longer required. Dante stared at him like he'd never seen him before. You're really doing this for an 8-year-old who won't even look at you. Yes. She might never forgive you for what she saw. I know. So you're giving up your power, your protection, your life's work for nothing. Vincent thought about Lily's drawing, the one with all three of them holding hands, smiling. The one she'd hidden under her pillow and never showed him. Not for nothing, he said quietly. For the chance that maybe someday she won't be afraid of me anymore. Dante shook his head slowly. You're either the bravest man I've ever met or the biggest fool. Probably both. Vincent picked up his phone, set up the meeting with Barbie, and get our lawyers started on the paperwork. I want everything legitimate, everything clean, no loose ends. One by one, his men filed out of the room, some shaking their heads, others looking like they'd just witnessed something they didn't quite understand. Marco was the last to leave. He paused at the door. Boss, what are you going to do after this? Vincent looked toward the floor where Lily's room was, where she lay refusing to see him. I'm going to figure out how to be the father she deserves, he said, even if it kills me. Marco nodded slowly and left. Alone again, Vincent pulled off his signet ring, the heavy gold band with the Moretti family crest, the symbol of his authority that he'd worn for 15 years. He set it on the table and walked away without looking back. 3 weeks later, Lily was discharged. The doctors were cautiously optimistic. Her heart was responding well to medication. Her rhythm was stable. Physically, she was healthier than she'd been in months. Emotionally was a different story. She'd started talking again to Emily, to the nurses, even to Dr. Richardson. But whenever Vincent entered the room, she went silent. She didn't scream anymore, didn't cry, just retreated into a polite, distant quiet that was somehow worse than the terror had been. Vincent took it without complaint. He'd sit in the corner of her room, never too close, and tell her about the house, about the purple bedroom that was ready for her, about the garden where she could plant flowers if she wanted, about the library he had installed with every book he could think of. Lily would nod politely and say, "That's nice, Papa," in a voice that held no warmth. Then she'd turn back to Emily and ask what story they were reading next. On discharge day, Vincent's fleet of SUVs was gone. Instead, a single black sedan waited at the hospital entrance. No armed guards, no entourage, just a driver Emily didn't recognize. "Where are your men?" Emily asked as they loaded Lily's belongings. "Gone." Vincent's voice was flat. "I released them from service 2 weeks ago. Most have moved on to other families. All of them. Marco's still around. Dante too, but they're not working for me anymore. Just keeping an eye out until I'm clear of this life completely." Emily looked at him. Really looked he'd lost weight. His suits, always immaculate, now hung slightly loose on his frame. The shadows under his eyes suggested he hadn't slept properly in weeks. "You actually did it," she said quietly. "You walked away. I'm in the process. These things take time. Lawyers, paperwork, making sure I don't leave any threads that could pull me back in." He watched Lily climb into the car, avoiding his eyes, or put her in danger again. The drive to Vincent's estate was silent. Lily sat between Emily and Vincent in the back seat, holding Emily's hand, staring out the window. When they arrived, the house was enormous, a sprawling property with manicured lawns and a fountain in the circular driveway, but it felt empty, quiet. A housekeeper named Mrs. Chin greeted them, warm and grandmotherly. She showed Lily to her room. Purple walls, just as promised, with a canopy bed and shelves already filled with books and art supplies. Lily managed a small smile. It's pretty. Your papa picked everything himself, Mrs. Chin said gently. The smile faded. Oh. Emily stayed for dinner, a meal that Mrs. Chun had prepared with obvious love. Lily ate a little, talked a little, but kept glancing at the door like she wanted to escape. After dinner, after Lily had gone to bed, Emily found Vincent in his study. He was staring at paperwork spread across his desk, but she could tell he wasn't really seeing it. I should go, Emily said from the doorway. Vincent looked up. Thank you for everything. She's going to need time. I know. He stood, running a hand through his hair. I hired a child therapist. She starts next week and there's a tutor. Lily's missed too much school. And Mrs. Chin will be here whenever Lily needs anything. What about you? What about me? Where will you be? Vincent was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled an envelope from his desk drawer and handed it to her. What's this? Emily asked. 3 months' rent for an apartment. Not in my name. Nothing that ties back to me. Just so you have somewhere safe while you figure things out. He held up a hand before she could protest. It's not charity. Consider it payment for the time you spent caring for Lily. You lost your home because of me. This is me fixing my mistake. Emily wanted to argue, wanted to tell him she didn't need his help. But she didn't need it, and pride wouldn't keep a roof over her head. Thank you, she said quietly, taking the envelope. There's something else. Vincent hesitated. I'm leaving Chicago. Once everything is settled, probably another month or two, I'm taking Lily and disappearing. New city, new name, clean start. Emily's chest tightened. Does she know? Not yet. I'll tell her when it's time. He met Emily's eyes. I wanted you to know first in case she asks for you. Where will you go? I don't know yet. Somewhere quiet, somewhere she can be normal. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Somewhere I can learn to be normal too. Vincent, I know what you're going to say. That running won't fix what's broken between us. But staying here definitely won't. She'll always see this house, this city, and remember what I am, what I did. Emily stepped closer. Then don't vanish. Don't become another ghost. She has to grieve. What else can I do? Become someone she can find again. Emily's voice was firm. Not the man you were, not the Dawn or the monster or whatever you think you are. Just a father, a real one. Someone who shows up even when it's hard. Someone who doesn't run when things get difficult. Vincent looked at her with something like wonder. You still have hope for me after everything you've seen. I have hope for Lily, and she needs you, not your money or your protection or your guilt. She needs her father to be brave enough to stay in her life, even if she pushes you away. And if she never forgives me, then at least you'll be there when she's ready to try. Vincent pulled something from his pocket. His signet ring, the gold band with a Moretti crest. He'd been carrying it since the day he took it off. He placed it in Emily's hand. What am I supposed to do with this? She asked. Keep it, sell it, throw it in the river. He closed her fingers around it. I don't need it anymore. That man, the one who wore that ring, he's dead. I'm trying to become someone else now. Emily looked down at the heavy gold in her palm, then back at Vincent's face. He looked lighter somehow, still exhausted, still haunted, but no longer carrying the weight of an empire. Be someone worth finding, Emily said softly. Vincent smiled, really smiled for the first time since she'd met him. I'll try. Emily left the estate that night and never went back, but she kept the ring. And sometimes late at night she'd wonder if Vincent Moretti had really managed to disappear into a new life, or if some ghosts were too substantial to ever truly fade away. 6 months later, Emily stood outside Mel's diner at dawn, coffee in hand, watching the construction crew finish their work. The old building looked transformed. New windows, fresh paint, a modern awning. But the bones were the same. The booth where Lily had collapsed. The counter where Emily had worked for 6 years. The place where everything had changed. Mel had sold it to her for a fraction of what it was worth. "You saved a kid's life in my place," he'd said gruffly, signing over the deed. "Seems right that you get to keep the magic going." Emily had used every penny she'd saved, plus a small business loan, to buy it. She'd spent 3 months renovating, painting, choosing new equipment, and now finally it was ready. The sign installer climbed down from his ladder. "All set. Miss Carter, want to see?" Emily nodded, her heart in her throat. He flipped a switch, and the new sign illuminated against the purple-pink dawn sky. Lily's Light Cafe. The letters glowed warm and golden, chasing away the shadows. Emily's eyes burned with tears. She'd named it after a little girl she hadn't seen in half a year. A little girl who'd vanished with her father into whatever new life they'd built together. She wondered if they were safe, if Lily was happy, if Vincent had managed to become the father he'd promised to be. She wondered if they ever thought about her. Opening day was chaos in the best way. Regular customers from the old diner came back curious about the changes. New faces appeared drawn by the fresh paint and the intriguing name. Emily hired 2 servers. Young women from the neighborhood who reminded her of herself at that age, and spent the morning training them on the ancient coffee machine that she'd refused to replace. By noon, every booth was full. By 2 a.m., Emily was exhausted and exhilarated, and more alive than she'd felt in years. She was restocking napkins when she noticed the envelope taped to the register. Her hands stilled. It was thick, cream-colored paper, expensive. Her name was written across the front in elegant handwriting she didn't recognize. Emily's heart began to race. She waited until the afternoon rush died down until the diner was quiet again before opening it. Inside was a photograph, a little girl on a beach, older now, taller, her dark hair longer and sun-streaked. She was laughing, arms stretched wide, waves crashing behind her. The joy on her face was so pure, so unguarded that Emily's breath caught. Lily. Behind her in the photo, just at the edge of the frame, was a man building a sand castle. His face was turned away from the camera, but Emily knew the line of his shoulders, the way he moved. Vincent. Her hand shook as she unfolded the note that had been tucked behind the photo. "Dear Emily, Lily wanted to send you a drawing, but I convinced her a photograph might be more meaningful. This was taken 3 weeks ago in a small town on the Oregon coast. We've been here for 4 months. It's quiet, peaceful, the kind of place where nobody asks questions and everybody knows her name anyway. Lily goes to school now, public school. She has friends. She talks about them constantly, about Emma. Yes, she named her best friend Emma and cried when she told me why. And about her art teacher, and about the boy who sits behind her in math class and pulls her hair. She still takes her medication every day, still sees her cardiologist monthly. But she runs now, she laughs, she's not afraid anymore, and she talks to me. Not just polite words, but real conversations. Yesterday, she told me about a fight she had with Emma and asked my advice, and actually listened to what I said. It was the best conversation of my life. She asks about you sometimes, wonders if you're okay, if you found a new apartment, if you're still working at the diner. I found out about Lily's Light Cafe from an old friend who still has connections in Chicago. I won't say I'm not still watching from a distance. Old habits. But I want you to know you were right about everything. I didn't need to vanish. I needed to become someone worth finding, someone who shows up, someone who stays even when it's hard. I'm not that man yet. But I'm trying every day. I'm trying. Lily drew something for you after all. It's in the envelope, for the woman who taught me how to live, not rule. Thank you for saving my daughter. Thank you for saving me. Emily pulled out the second item in the envelope with shaking hands. It was a drawing unmistakably Lily style. 3 figures holding hands on a beach. a woman with dark hair, a little girl in the middle, and a man on the other side. But this time there were no walls between them, no distance, and everyone was smiling. At the bottom, in careful child's handwriting, "My family love Lily." Emily pressed the drawing to her chest and let herself cry. Big gasping sobs of relief and joy and bittersweet loss all tangled together. They were okay. Lily was happy. Vincent was trying. That was enough. That had to be enough. The sun was setting when Emily finally walked to the front door of the cafe. The street was quiet now. The dinner rush still an hour away. She looked at the drawing in her hand one more time, then carefully pinned it to the bulletin board behind the counter, right next to the old photograph of Emma. Two little girls, two chances to save someone, two pieces of her heart given away, and somehow impossibly making her more whole. Emily flipped the sign in the window from closed to open. Outside, the cafe's golden lights reflected on the wet pavement from an earlier rain. The sign above glowed against the darkening sky. Lily's Light Cafe. And Emily understood finally what Vincent had been searching for all along. Not power, not control, not kingdoms built on fear. Just this, a small light in the darkness, a place where broken people could find their way home. A second chance to get it right. Vincent had found his light in a quiet beach town, learning to be a father. Lily had found hers in laughter and friendship, and a life no longer shadowed by fear. And Emily had found hers here in this diner, serving coffee and hope to anyone who walked through her doors. 3 lives changed by one terrible night and one impossible choice. 3 lights burning in different places, but somehow still connected. Emily smiled as the first evening customers began to arrive, the bell above the door chiming its welcome. The light Vincent could never find was shining now in all their worlds, and it would keep shining as long as there were people brave enough to choose love over fear, connection over control, and second chances over giving up. Lily's light, Emma's memory, Emily's hope, all of it glowing golden in the gathering dusk, chasing the shadows. In the end, Vincent realized the only power that mattered was the power to love and protect without fear. He stepped away from the violent world he once ruled, choosing instead to be the father Lily needed. Emily stayed, not because she was trapped, but because she cared about Lily, and maybe even about Vincent. They rebuilt their lives quietly, choosing healing over revenge and family over fear. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Your support means everything. Thank you for watching.